All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today we have special guest, Kendall Rose. Kendall, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
What's funny is the way we get to know each other was interesting. You sent me a note asking about some folks being able to run with White Rock Co-op at Taco Joint on Saturday. So that's how I get to know you a little, which I don't really know you, but that's how I get to know who you are. So that's cool. Appreciate you doing that. I think they did. They went out there and ran.
Yes, they've been out a couple times, which has been great. We have the Not Your Average Run Club has a training program for Dallas this year, and experiment all around. But we are wanting just to expose them to more places to run and more community, and the co-op just has a lot of that. So wanted to take advantage of what's already existing.
It's pretty cool. They're in Dallas then, so it makes sense. And then interesting enough is some other folks were talking about you. I don't know if you reached out to Josh Odegaard or do you know Josh?
I did not reach out,
Okay.
but I do know who he is. I think we've met a couple of times. I know Juliet.
Okay.
But I think they go out to the track nights every once in a while. So it worked out that they were all there that week and had that connection. It was good.
Yeah. Then he's also an admin of White Rock Running Co-op. He said something in this group and I was like, about you and some folks running with. I was like, hey, she reached out to me like a few days ago. I forgot to tell you this.
Oh yeah. I just reached out to who I knew. So that worked out.
No, it was perfect. Anyways, it's not really to talk about that, but it was interesting that we met that way. And I thought, I'm going to reach out to her because I was looking slightly into your background. I was like, hey, she's a coach and she's a CIM ambassador and does some other things. And she seems very interesting. So I thought I would reach out and here we are. So I appreciate you coming over.
Yeah. That'd be
Let's dive in. So tell me a little bit about you, your running career, and like, where'd you get started? Why are you so interested in running so much?
Yes. So I think I'm your example of a soccer player turned cross-country runner. I grew up playing soccer, was a midfielder. Naturally, my school coaches pushed me into running track and cross-country. And I ended up dropping soccer during high school and transitioning to cross-country full-time. I was always I was a varsity runner, but I was never really first string for soccer, and I was never the top player on the cross country team. So I think by the time that graduation was approaching, I just was burnt out from competitive sports. I loved it, but I was just tired and ready for college. So I went to Texas A&M and I was completely sedentary during college. I did nothing and got so out of shape, and every run was like comparing myself to high school cross country Kendall. I think a lot of people could probably relate to that. Going out fast and not being able to maintain more than a couple miles. So I didn't really love running during college, but I tell the story about how I got back into running because I got a puppy. And it was my last semester of school. I graduated in the fall of 21 and I had gotten a golden Doodle puppy a few weeks before school started. And my parents said, you can't have this puppy here, go back to college. And I was in College Station for 3 weeks by myself with this puppy and I had nothing to do. So I was going to F45 classes every single day. That was my exciting activity for the day because nobody was there yet. I didn't have anyone to socialize with. So I was just going to these workout classes and I was going to F45 back home before that too. But Sundays, they were closed. So I had nothing to do and I went for a run one day and was pleasantly surprised with how it went. And I think I ran 4 miles and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And so I decided to do 5 miles the next weekend and then 6 and then 7. And then I knew about a half marathon that they had in College Station in December around the time of graduation. So I was like, oh, what a perfect way to wrap up my final semester at school, then to run around the city. And I trained for it. And as the story goes, I ran my half marathon. I was like, well, I might as well do it full now. So then I graduated. Yeah. And if the rest is history. I just have been running ever since. All the community stuff and coaching, that took time to develop. But
so when you ran your half marathon, you trained a little bit. Where'd you find the training plan and all of that kind of stuff? And how'd you do?
I did very well. My training is honestly terrifying to look at now, like having a coaching lens because of how insanely I progressed it. But I was doing F45s the whole time, which I don't know if you're familiar with those classes, but it's a studio fitness class. It's like very high intensity interval training kind of concept, but you get some resistance training, some strength training, and you also do a lot of plyometrics, cardio-based movements like burpees and box jumps and things like that. So I would like to think that it was partially my youth and partially, honestly, all of the stuff I was doing in those classes that prevented me from getting injured because my mileage, I was looking a couple weeks ago, was insane. I was running like 50 miles a week for a half marathon by the end. Just crazy.
I think
Would
that,
not recommend today.
yeah, and I think that youth is a big deal. I think that you're doing the work, so I'm sure you did well. And look,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Orange Theory, right? In
Yeah,
some ways,
similar.
also, and yeah, and
Very
I think
similar.
that.
I just don't have the treadmills.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
This is what was your time? Your first half marathon ever? What'd you do?
Yes. I am trying to remember. I think I ran like a 7:15 pace. So I think
Okay.
that was like maybe a 1:35 or
Yeah,
something like that, which was not my goal. My goal was, I think, just under 140. It was I think a lot of folks probably when you start training for your first half marathon, you think this like easy pace that I'm running, I'm just going to try to stretch it out across
yeah,
13 miles. And I was researching, listening to podcasts, like doing all the things and trying to run easier and do some like harder runs.
yep.
I think that there was some strategy behind it, but it was still very like self-made and crazy progressive. But yeah, I went out really hot and I was like, oh dear God, I hope I hold on to this.
Exactly.
It was a really like beautiful day. It was cold, so quite literally a beautiful day. But also I think I had just tons of friends because I was in college and that were stationed like all around. So I just had to make it like another 3 miles to Connor, another 3 miles to RJ, another three. And it was really fun. So yes, that was my first half marathon experience.
That's pretty awesome. I like it. And you've done better than most, right? So I think that's the opportunity there. So yeah, you ran this half marathon actually pretty well. I know you said it was crazy about the training and stuff, and maybe 50 miles is a little too much for a half marathon. You were well prepared.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Again, I think that semester too, I think I had 2 classes left. So I just had all the time in the world. Not a luxury that I have today, but yeah. So I was definitely well trained for it. And I'll shout out my friend Annabeth was a fun accountability buddy. We had a photo album and I just shared update videos. She's doing her first marathon here soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's been fun. I felt like I wasn't really alone during all of that, but it was also fun to do it myself. Like I have paid for coaching for all of my marathons and everything since, and I will continue to do. But I think it was very empowering to have that in that time.
That's pretty cool. And so that inspired you to do more and go do the marathon.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. You come off of a race that went really well and went a little bit more naturally. And I think I had done a couple 14-mile long runs. So it
Wow.
was very much, oh, I'm already up to 14, might as well keep going. So it took a couple weeks off for the holidays and all that. And then moved to Frisco. I live in Uptown now, but I was living in the suburbs closer to work when I first started working. And I got integrated with the Frisco Running Club. So that's where I actually met my coach, Ruth, back then. And yeah, I pretty much forced myself to go to all of their runs too, because I knew if I didn't go to one run during the week, that I don't know, I might convince myself not to show up the next time just from social anxiety or something. So I forced myself to show up to everything for the first few weeks. And that was where my first like running community like really formed in Frisco.
I like that because community is so key to running. And for me, and I know for a lot of other people, it helps push you, especially because you are new to marathons.
Mhm.
So now you get to run with people to do those really long runs. And I assume that you learned a lot from me on
Yes.
I learned what to wear, what not to wear, else, nutrition, all kinds of things. It sounds like you were smart about some of that stuff anyways, just because you're doing some research, but you just learned so much from the community.
Oh, yes, 100%. It definitely makes it a lot easier to show up every day when you have the social aspect and showing up at a track early in the morning. It's nice to have other people there too, even if you don't do the same thing. But yeah, it's doing the long runs that those take quite a while. So it's nice to have some company on those. And definitely the experience from the races, just the advice, race strategy and nutrition and horror stories and things like that. It's very beneficial. But I think for me, like I always was pretty shy and I know myself well. So that's why I forced myself to go every day, because I just knew that if I didn't show up Wednesday because I was a little bit nervous or tired, that next week on Monday, I could give myself the same excuse.
Yeah.
So I needed to force myself to make friends really fast so that I would keep showing up.
That's awesome. I think that there's so much to learn from the community thing. And I like how you force yourself to do it and make yourself get up every day. And because look, it's so easy to not do it. It's like, I'm feeling a little sore today, or I don't really feel like, hey, getting up this early, or like you said, you had a little bit of anxiety, maybe just being with a bunch of people because you were shy or something at first. And it's hard. You could be a super outgoing person and you go to a new community and now you know no one. They know each other and everything else. And so trying to fit in
Yep.
is really difficult at first.
Yes,
And it takes a while.
it definitely does.
I love that. And so you started training for this. So you're smart enough to get a coach, but then you also started training with Frisco Running Club. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think so. I was running with the Frisco Running Club for a while, and I met Ruth Atkinson was my coach and is my coach, and she works with she was Ender McCurdy trained, if you're familiar with them. But I actually worked with a different coach at first that I had met, Nikki, through this club for my first marathon, and Nikki's insanely fast, and that was like kind of my first coaching experience in training for Irving. So I ran Irving 2022. That was in April. It was hot. It was honestly, the training is a blur to me. I just remember getting integrated with this group, and I remember really enjoying the runs and like loving the people that I was seeing. And it felt super easy to show up every day. Like at 5 a.m. very consistently. Everything just was blending together, my memory. But man, Irving was my nightmare, like first marathon, thought I would never do it again kind of race. It was hot. I had consumed like no electrolytes, went out way too hot, way overconfident, worked in the half marathon, did not work in the marathon. And the Irving race is the half marathon loop twice. So as I was like approaching the half, I remember thinking, oh, it's right there. I could leave right now. And it was a lot of stop, walk for 10 seconds, feel guilty, start running, still too fast. And so I really didn't slow down that much because I didn't walk for very long, and then I would just go fast again. It was really painful, but I survived. I crossed the finish line and I was like, never again. And somehow I ended up back here again. No, some thoughts on that, but that was
Do you
my
have the first marathon time? Do you remember that?
Yes, it was 3:36.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
For a bad
Yes.
marathon.
No, yeah, it was still pretty good, but I went out hot at a 7:15 pace for the first half and then blew up.
Sure.
So it's still a very positive split race, but because I went so fast at the beginning, I think I made up some time, which is not what I recommend ever again, but survived
I
it.
think it's interesting you see that because look, I've run half marathons, whatever, and still did fairly decent, but it's just when you go back to that memory, it's probably the worst feeling I've ever had sometimes. And it's like
Mhm.
the last thing you want to feel is just extremely bad at the end.
Yeah.
I remember my first marathon, was it my first, my second, I don't know, first, no, my second marathon. First I did a bit. And then I was thinking I was going to get 3:20. And one, I didn't because it was really hot that day. And plus I just jumped out too hard. And the first half was like a 1:40 and the next half was a 2:20.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
something like that. So,
Yeah.
stuff happens.
Yeah.
So you decided instead that you were going to do another marathon at some point. What kind of, during that time, you felt like crud, I'm sure. And what kind of got you back into it and thinking about it just right afterwards? Okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to cover redemption or no?
Yeah, it's funny. There's always a specific reason. I always tell people this. I say, don't start training for something unless you have this like strong internal feeling that you want to go race someday. Like you need to have something to look towards. But
Yeah.
yeah, stopped running. Like really just stopped and was going back to like studio fitness classes for a little bit, occasional run. But I stopped training for probably a couple months. And then an email came out from work because my company that I work in my day job, we participate in what's called the corporate challenge in the Plano Richardson area. And I had at one point signed up for the 5K, and they sent out an email to confirm like all the timed runners and like their time that they estimated for themselves.
Yeah.
And it was like visible to everybody. And my name was at the top with like my ambitious 5K time. And I was like, oh God, I have to do that now. And so I had asked Nikki, who was coaching me at the time, if she could help me get in a little bit better shape. And it's like summertime or approaching summertime now. if she could help me get in shape for this 5K in 3 weeks. And I was able to survive it. I'll tell you that 5K, I do it every single year, and it is miserable every single time because it's in August, super hot. The second mile is this like slow incline over by UTD. But anyway, yes, very different kind of pain. Like I much prefer the long stuff, but I survived it. And then I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think I'd been running with Ruth quite a bit at the time, more casually. And Ruth is she was a lot more conservative in style than I think Nikki was. Love Nikki. But I think their styles were just like different. And Ruth was we always ran truly easy every time I ran with her. She actually kept us accountable to that truly easy pace. And I don't know, I was talking to her, she was coaching people, and I decided to give it a try. And this was leaving summer, entering fall of 2022. I decided to run Houston 2023 in January. This was like a block of just conservative. I was so determined not to burn out. I was so petrified of like how I felt during Irving that I was not going to be doing any real breaking like that in Houston. And that ended up being my first BQ. I ran at the time, it was 3:30 was the cutoff, and I ran a 3:22 that day. Same thing, that train block is starting to just blur in my memory. But Ruth really knocked me down on my easy runs. Like she was really on me about slowing down, and my hard quality sessions, I think, were a ramp up. We really didn't, I always had I've always pushed it a little bit more on Track Tuesday, but she really forced me to keep it together. And as the training block progressed, my fitness really did start to show up, but I still showed up to Houston terrified. I just did not want to experience what I experienced at Irving again. I ran the race plan like to a T, and it was
Nice.
a negative split marathon fueled this time, lots of electrolytes. Like I learned a lot during that training block, and it all just came together on race day that time.
That was the one that was the 322, or that was the...
Yes.
Okay.
That was the treat,
Well,
322.
yeah.
Yep.
Houston's a good course in general, right? It's flat,
Yes.
and the most part, generally pretty good. It gets warmer
Yep.
during the day, but look, I've never run the full. My wife runs those quite a bit. Done Houston several times, and I'll just go and do the half at Houston. I love it. A couple of years ago, I ran it. I'm going to go back every year after starting even this next year, but it's one of my favorites. It's a great course. I would say that it's not that close, but fairly close to where you can just kind of drive down and just spend the night and not. So that's pretty awesome. So then did you go to Boston? It was the next year, right? Because you wouldn't do
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yes. And I didn't run a marathon in between. I ran the Dallas half like December of 2023, but then I ran Boston 2024. So that was a long wait because it was like almost a year and a half. So a lot of time to have like anticipation. Dallas 2023 was cold that year. So I PR'd my half then. And then, yeah, Boston was, I would say like, I was super excited and jazzed about Boston, but I was a lot of people encouraged me to fun run it, right? To enjoy the experience and not race it. But I was still building fitness, right? During that whole block. I think at that point I had been definitely more consistent. And after Houston, I was excited and maintained my base throughout the year, and then trained for that half. I think that block, I just remember being like the whole time, it was hard to get myself motivated sometimes because I wasn't going after a PR or anything, but I could tell that I had PR potential. So I don't know, it was kind of a weird training block, but Boston was wonderful. I know you've talked about that race quite a bit on this podcast, and it's unreal, an unreal experience for sure. Yeah.
And I think it's fine for you to talk about how unreal it was and how awesome it was. So you didn't even tell us how you did, even though you were super shame. People want to know how you did. Times are important. I know we don't want to think that sometimes, but they are.
Yeah.
You're not going out there in general, maybe not this one, but in general, your goal is to run faster than you did before. And it just sounds, I don't know what you did at Boston. Tell me about Boston. How did the race go? I mean, what you did? That's a huge race. Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, I'll happily talk about it. I am a stress ball when it comes to travel. I managed to convince a bunch of friends super last minute to come, and we made a girls trip out of it. So we had Boston, then we went to Cape Cod and Nantucket for a few days afterwards. But I'll say, I love my friends. I'm not doing that again though. Like that was traveling with, I had 6 personalities with me, and then there was my parents. We had an Airbnb over in like the Newton area, which was walking distance, like a mile and a half-ish, I think, from the course for them. But for me, I was so panicked, like not being close to where the buses pick up and all that, and carb loading and stuff with all of them around, and trying to eat places with 7 people was challenging, but I love them. They were all there for me and were such great spectators, worked so hard to get to multiple points of the course. My parents do. But yeah, I just remember showing up to the start. Like I just could not sleep the night before. I was just so panicked that somehow I wouldn't get to the buses, and it was perfectly fine, of course, the next morning. But
Of course.
it's such a long morning, getting to the buses, waiting, like taking the bus ride, waiting at Athletes Village, and then starting at 10:30 to 11 a.m. ish for on average for people. It was hot. Like I was standing there like with the sun beaming down on my shoulders, and I just felt tired from the whole morning. And I had sprained my ankle, I think like maybe around the summer of 2023 playing soccer. So I got a PT and healed that, and I was fine for the Dallas half, but it did start to create some problems and come back during my Boston block, and all of that downhill in Boston, like at the beginning, just all that impact, it surfaced a lot earlier than it had in some of my long runs. And then I changed things. I wore different socks than I usually do, and I had the worst blister on the same foot. So it was like I could tell pretty early in the race that I was feeling fatigued, and I just decided very early just to let the miles come to me in a way. I didn't force any of the race plan. But man, by like mile 18 or 19, it was just like every time my foot hit the ground, it just was pain. That was not fun. But the spectators, I swear I didn't go like more than 30 seconds without people present, and probably more than like a couple minutes by like huge crowds. It's just unreal spectators wise. What is it? The scream tunnels. Exactly. You can tell that's where you're at in the race. Everything that they say about Boston, it's so true. It was just like an unreal experience. So that was, I think, I hear all the different emotion of the whole travel experience and race experience for me. That was a race that I crossed the finish line. And when I heard the guy say to me, like, congratulations, you're a Boston Marathoner, I just broke down immediately, because it was just this overwhelming fatigue and stress and frustration and pain and like excitement. Holy crap, I qualified 14, 15 months ago, and I just crossed the finish line, and it was just a very emotional day for me. Yeah, that was
I
Boston.
love that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I finished Boston, and very emotional time, which it is for most people. So congratulations. It's really awesome.
Thank you.
And Janice, so that was 2024, we're now in 2025. So it wasn't
Mhm.
all that long ago. What have you been
Yep.
doing since?
Yeah. After I finished Boston, I had some personal stuff going on. And so I was in an emotional state, and I really just dove right back into training again, a little early probably, but I signed up for CIM of 2024. Yeah. So December of that year, probably by June. So April to June, I sat on it for a minute, but I signed up for CIM in probably June, and jumped into another training block. During that time, I had also, there's some crossover in, I think, like stories for today, but I got my certified like personal trainer. I'm a certified personal trainer, and I got that certification shortly after Boston. I had been working on it since, I don't know, I had first paid for the course in I think September of 2023, and then started working on it and was just really enjoying the content, but took a little bit of a break during my like Boston block and had to pay for an extension. But I finally finished the course and took my test and got my certification. Then I was like, what am I doing with this? I had like impulsively purchased it out of this like desire to learn how to strength train for running. I just had been like, I don't even know. It's a whole, I think, just me babbling about what the heck was going on in my brain at the time. But I just one day decided to purchase a $900 course and finally finished it and sat on what I wanted to do with that for a while. Then I came across, so I guess we'll pause. Like I went into a marathon training block. We got to talk about that. That looks more the same. And that's when I trained for CIM and all that. But during like outside of that running stuff, like during the second half of 2024, I had started this club in Dallas in uptown area called Forever Athlete Sporting Club. It originated in Austin, Texas. And they basically, like, the whole concept of this club is it's intended for those who were involved in team sports in some capacity in their life in the past, whether that be soccer, football, volleyball, baseball, whatever. And we're used to having regular practices where you do speed and agility drills and have this camaraderie with your team. And so that's like what the workouts were. It was like speed and agility drills, usually something with a ball involved, right? Like a football, a volleyball, soccer ball. So it was really fun. It was just like a super social workout on a Friday morning. You did some cones, ladders, whatever, and then caught a football from someone that was waiting in line. So it just got you like talking and really just like playing like games like on a Friday morning with your friends. So that was a fun, creative venture. It was how Corey, the guy who started in Austin, who allowed me to extend his brand in Dallas. He wrote the workouts and stuff, but I got to like practice like demoing things a little bit, which I didn't get to do in my online personal trainer certification. So that was fun. But at the same time, so a lot of things were just happening in 2024. I was hoping to simple friends with the running stuff casually. And I think this is the coaching intro, right? And pretty common story for people probably. You run, you get faster, you nerd out about how you get faster, you buy some books and help some friends. And then I helped one of my good friends, Matt. He also ended up running CIM and helped him see a major PR at that race. And it was, he PR, granted his first marathon was like just doing it for the first time, but he really raced CIM and trained to race it. And he PR'd by 47 minutes. So that was like, I was so excited about my performance. I had an 18-minute PR that day, but getting to be like a part of his training the whole block and checking my phone immediately to see where he was at the finish line was so fun and exciting. He was probably one of the people that really encouraged me to start offering this more. And I refused to accept a dime from him to this day because he pushed me to go be brave and tell people that I would love to help them. And so CIM was like a great race for me, but it was also a time where I felt a lot of confidence. And I got a week later, so many things going on this year. I had seen that the RRCA was offering an in-person 2-day certification course in partnership with the Dallas Marathon. And I was like, what perfect way to round out the year. And we were just in a conference room for 2 days, nerding out about running. I felt better having some like actual like course around this, not just my own reading and whatnot. We did some fun like interactive exercises where we built plans together and all this stuff. And so, I finished CIM. I had helped a friend do really great. I got my certification and I finally felt like at the end of 2024 with all of that happening, like that I could enter the coaching space a little bit on the side.
Love it. I think that's a great
Yep.
story. And look, you got certified in this, and then you took the test that everybody takes to get certified for running. And it's legit. Like, you've had the background, you've done it, and that's really awesome. I have been looking for, it's funny because I've interviewed a lot of coaches on here than from what I remember men. And I'm like, is there any women coaches out there in Dallas? Because I think that's another intriguing thing for me was to interview you was, hey, there's more women coaches out there, but we just don't know. I don't know all who they are. So I was really excited to interview you and hear your story. And, because we have a lot of women on the podcast and a lot of their coaches are guys and everything else. And it's fine, but let's get the women coaches out there as well. And so it's pretty cool. How many people are you coaching right now?
Yeah, I have 8 right now, which is fun. And they're all over. Most of them are not in Dallas. I think
Oh, well.
maybe 2 are in Dallas. I've got San Antonio, Houston, Georgia, Tennessee. It's been pretty like referral based. I've started with friends and now I have a client that's a referral from a different client that found me on Instagram. So that stuff motivated me to get a Weaver set up and like my payment stuff all sorted out because they're total strangers now. That's super cool. But if you ever want to talk to another female coach like Ruth Atkinson, my coach, she's amazing. She was a teacher, like a music teacher, and did coaching on the side, but now she's a full-time coach. And she just had her first baby and is navigating being a new parent and runner and coach. And she's got a great story too. And she's awesome.
You'll have to give me your information after this. It'd be awesome. So how'd you become a CIM ambassador? What is that? look like and what does that mean?
Yes. So again, this all kind of runs together in 2024 because I had just run CIM, was super jazzed about the race. I loved the course. I had such a great day. I ran a 3:04:51 that day. And yeah, it was an awesome day. I can talk for days about that particular race.
Let's
But
do it. Let's talk about the race and
yes,
then talk about the
yes,
ambassador. I like that.
got it. Yeah, so I would say this was a training block that after I told you Boston, I just felt I don't even have a word for it, like during my training block. But CIM, I got really locked in and I had my roommate was also training for it. My Matt was training for it. And so we had this short message about the race, which I think already added some like excitement because we weren't doing it really alone. I was living in the suburbs because I have moved every year, but I'm back in uptown now. But anyways, it was just a training block that I think everything clicked. And that I think if you've run more than one race, I think that some people can probably relate to that. Wasn't really changing much. I was deploying a lot of the strategies I've learned in other races and other training blocks. But I would say it was like the training block of loops because I just didn't, CIM has hills and we don't have a lot of hills here, but I had a good 2 or 3 mile loop option from my apartment. And my long runs, like most of them, I wasn't even like driving over to White Rock or anything. I was just putting nutrition in like the back of my car and I'd go run out and back like a 6 mile warm up or something. And then it was just like the marathon block of loops on long runs. So I'd have a 2 mile on, 1 mile off, 3 mile on, 1 mile off type workout, like week over week that my coach was giving me. And I would just run the loop and then do an out and back cool down and just do that again. And that loop had just enough elevation that over the course of the long run, I had gotten by the end of the training block, I had accumulated enough that like the elevation gain and loss that there was at CIM, I was able to get that in my small loop, just doing it over and over again. That makes sense. So that is what I remember from that training block was just running around that in circles around that space. But everything just clicked. I could feel my fitness really showing up in those later workouts. And that was a really exciting feeling. I think the more you race, the more you learn about your body, the more you're able to tell, is this the right effort? I think I just had a lot more awareness walking into that race and had my carb load strategy ready to go. And the race was cool. Like it started, I think, maybe in the upper 40s and ended like mid 50s or so. So perfect in my world. And yeah, I ran the race exactly to plan. I've got like a whole long thing that I've typed out in my reflections of that race. But main idea with CIM is the first half is like rolling hills. Second half is pretty flat down. Be conservative on the first half so you can take advantage of the second half. And that's pretty much what I did. There was like this insane fog for 6 miles or so that morning. Like it was just trees and tons of people around me and just this fog where you couldn't see that far ahead. And I just feel like those miles flew by, like the hills I didn't even see coming really. I fell into a pace group by accident for a little bit. It was a really awesome experience. And I think partially it was the race, but partially it was just things coming together too.
That sounds like an amazing race, but also amazing training blocks. So it sounds like you didn't really run with the community of people. You just ran on your own in this particular block.
Yes. Yeah. I have had a reason to move like every year, but I had moved back to the suburbs at the time to be closer to work. And yeah, it was definitely more solo training. Yeah. I really didn't have a lot of social runs that time around. But yes, I moved back to Dallas like shortly after, like end of December. So since then I've been like in pursuit of community, but at the time I was on my own.
Yeah, White Rock Running Co-op is a great one, but there's lots of really fast one about your speed and or a little bit faster, Pegasus, and also the slots that are right there close to you. But I mean, there's really a lot of great guys too, but I'm just saying, it's insane how many men and women are running under 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially in those groups. That co-op kind of has some of those, but I wouldn't say it's a blended group, but we partner quite a bit together. Like this last weekend, it was pretty much White Rock Running Co-op and Pegasus. And the point is that there's just, if you care to join them, or I don't know if you have or know them yet, it's a great group of people. And that's huge. So
yes, I've fallen into Pegasus more in the last few months, which has been amazing for my training. So I actually, a good point, and to talk about the CIM Ambassador thing for a second. When I was at that RRCA course right after CIM, I had met someone from Chicago that did the Ambassador program for CIM. that year. And we were talking about CIM because we both just ran it. And he was like, oh, if you loved it so much and you're going to do it again, you should totally apply for the ambassador program. He told me a little bit about it, and I'm fresh energy, like just had the best experience and don't really have anything on the calendar yet, but I ran a 3:04:51. If you can guess what my goal is this year, it's to break 3. I decided to sign up again, and I did apply for the ambassador program. As soon as the link came out to apply, I had all of this excitement for it, but I actually met Mani as well. And so we've been training a lot together for CIM, which has been really fun.
So money and
that
lobby.
course
Is that,
Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Yep. So I met him at that course as well. And then I started joining those Pegasus runs, and that's where I saw him again. And we've talked about that since.
So you're
Yeah,
already looking at it. That's awesome.
Yeah. End of 2024 was just a lot of like good things to set me up for this year.
I think that's awesome. Now you've got a community, and do you think you'll stay in Dallas or kind of where you're at in that area quite a bit or for a while?
Yes. I definitely don't, I don't have any reason to leave DFW in general anytime soon that I can foresee. But yes, I am tired of moving every year. So I am going to be keeping my tush in Uptown for as long as I can help it. That's the plan.
That's pretty awesome. What do you do for work? I didn't ask. What's your main kind of thing?
I work in supply chain for a large CPG company. So got a typical 9 to 5 corporate job.
Yeah.
And it's a hybrid schedule, which has been pretty forgiving for my running staff. Some weeks when they need me in there a little bit more are always a little inconvenient for my running, but
Guys, I can't do that. I'm going to go run.
exactly.
Cool.
Everything revolves around my running schedule. No, but yeah, it's the hybrid world has been very nice for running for sure.
That's awesome. And what are you doing as an ambassador? What does that mean? Like, I'm curious because I don't know. Like, you just posted.
Yep.
By the way, a lot of folks from the slots this year are going to CIM to hit
Yes.
really fast times. You knew that?
That's what I've heard. They're definitely a step ahead in terms of pace for me, but I love seeing them fly by me. But yes, I've seen that. The idea, interestingly enough, for the ambassador program is the race builds up so fast that it's not even really to encourage people to sign up, because by the time we start having ambassador duties, it's already sold out. But I think the idea behind the program is just to create community around the race in your local area. So we're all spread out around the country. I know there's someone in Houston as well this year. But yeah, we just have to set up one event in person. And I pretty much just hijacked a Pegasus run and said, if you're running CIM, come to this long run and meet other people that are running CIM this year. Because I started reaching out to tons of different run clubs, and it seemed like the sloths were primarily the people running CIM. There were a couple in Pegasus, a couple in Racetrack Club. Yeah, it was hard to find them all. But the idea was just to help people meet at least once. And then I have to post about it on my social media 5 times. And that's really it. But then the perks are I got, and this is all our website, but like I got like a free entry for it. And then it's not free entries for other people, but I had 5 of the blue entries, which is like the non-refundable, non-transferable one, available to give out. So especially because it was sold out, I did end up giving all 5 away, but I was able to give 2 away to a couple folks that came out to that run that day, that run with the sloths, I think, in Pegasus as well. So
Think you'll do it again? Think you'll do it again?
Maybe. I plan to run Berlin next year. I don't think I'm going to run CIM next year. So maybe another year, but there's probably an open position for that of this next year.
Okay, cool. So this year is just mainly training for the rest of the year to CIM. Is that really the goal?
Yes,
Right.
pretty much. Doing a 10K in a couple weeks just to kind of fitness test though. I've actually never done a 10K, so like raced
hard.
ones. Yeah, so a little nervous about it. It's like
Be fine,
a
but
5K, but
they are
longer.
hard.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the case of sprint. And then
Yeah.
10K is the exact same thing as a 5K, it seems, but it's even harder because you feel like
Yeah.
so it's rough. So what's funny is I ran my some people don't like to count it. I count it. So I ran this downhill half marathon this last weekend. It's a Revel race, Cottonwood, whatever, in Utah. It was literally 3,000 feet of down. It didn't
Wow.
kick your butt. And I PR'd, and I got one of my best PRs. Those are in 3 different kind of things, right? The half marathon, 5K, and the 10K. So, because it's that, it beat me up quite a bit. And
Yeah,
by
your
mile
quads.
5, I was ready. At mile 5, I was like, okay, I'm already feeling it. I'm not sure I'm going to get through this. But something that I want to ask you is, because I'm very interested. it's rare to find a race for me like that I have it all put together. But this race in particular, I did it 2 years ago and PR'd then, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do because when I first started, I want to hear a story like this, or does this ever happen? Especially in a marathon, because it's a lot harder to do this. And I've heard other marathoners kind of very strategically know exactly what they're going to do. And so I had this all planned out in the first year I ran mile 1 and 2, it started downhill, but I didn't want to kill my quads. And so I didn't even know. I never even ran it. And I wasn't even trying to PR or thinking about it. But I started off a little slow. So I started at 7:15, 7 minutes, then 6:45. Then I started going a lot faster down the mountain. And this year, though, I said, I want to hit a 125 because it's 2 years ago, I hit a 128. And so I was like, the way I'm going to do it is I've got to go faster the first 2 miles, right? Because a lot faster. And then when I'm going down from mile 3 or 4 to mile 10-ish, I've got to just really push hard because I knew mile 10, 11, or 11, 12, and 13, there's no hills really, maybe slight, but then it trails off, right? Like it's no longer downhill at all, but it feels like an uphill. For anyone else, it's not. But I knew I was going to be dying then, but I knew I was going to be slower too. And so I did. I executed very well. The first 3 miles, I did about 2 miles, I hit 6:38s, and I hit 6:20. Then I went down to 6:08s, then 6:08s, 6:09s, and then 6:15s, 6:17s. Never ran so fast in my life, especially the 6:08s. But then the last 3 miles were 7:15, 7:15, 7:10, 7:10, 7:11 or something, which I knew, usually people don't do that because they want to, I don't want to say bank time, but I don't know if that's really a thing. Maybe it is. Point is that I executed exactly the way I wanted and knew that if I were to do that, I had an opportunity to get closer to that 120. Didn't hit 125, but has there been a race like that? It sounds like there might have been during the CIM last year.
Yes. No, I definitely relate to that. And I feel like I had my coach always gives me a good race plan for every race, but Houston and CIM were both my true race marathons, I would say. And CIM also nicely has a very interactive, full course view on their website. So you can go and they have notes about what's worked well for runners in the past. I studied that thing like no other, and so did my coach. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to reference my notes to know exactly what I had done. But I remember the first half generally is more rolling hills, but I know that the first few miles are a little more, maybe 1 to 6-ish are more forgiving of those hills. And then 6 to 10 they're more steep or more plentiful. So I actually planned to still go out conservative on that first stretch but a little bit faster than what I would do for 6 or 10-ish. And that's pretty much exactly what I did. And that wonderful fog that I was describing happened during that hillier section where I just fell into a pace group. And I'd tell people, if you were cheering for me, you would not have seen me because I was just in the middle of this gigantic pack of a lot of men and you could not see me. I was just hiding in there. And so I just really didn't see them coming, but I pretty much ran exactly as intended. The first mile has quite a bit of downhill, so I knew it was going to be a little bit faster as well, which you don't want to go out hot in any race, but my coach and I agreed, just give yourself some grace on that mile and then cool at Kendall over the 5K, first 5K, first 10K. The goal was really to show up to the half feeling ready to race after that, because there's a lot of flat down. And I did make a choice when I got to the halfway point. I could tell I was feeling good. And I could tell I had an A goal and a B goal. And I could tell that I was on track for my A goal, which was sub 3:05. But I thought, is sub 3 possible today? And I'm thinking, what does that second half look like?
Yeah.
And I knew I'd have to do 6:40s for the rest of the race. And I also knew that I had done so many 2 mile on, 1 mile off, 3 mile on, 1 mile off workouts where I did that 6:40, which was more like a threshold. And then I could tell my fitness was showing up at that time because I was recovering at a low 7s. So I was still recovering quite fast. So I made an intentional decision at that point to test it. I said, give yourself 2 miles to see if you got it today and you can still recover. It'll be fine. We're not going to blow up today. We did not blow up, but I could tell after those 2 miles that I was not going to be able to sustain that. And I would say that choice did make the rest of the race much more challenging than it maybe needed to be. And I remember like at one point high-fiving a woman, like maybe around mile 15 or so, and it was 100% for me because I was like, I need this help. And I ended up running with her for a few miles. And yeah, the second half of the race was pretty much just let go within reason. And it was less let go when it was like, it was absolutely hang on. I know by the end of the race, I had no turnover left in my legs, but I didn't ever doubt that I could get my time at that point. So the only rule I broke was going for that faster, like those 2 miles right after the half. Otherwise, I like executed the plan entirely.
I like that approach, to be honest, because I think that sometimes you have to take a chance. But running the 304 was already kind of way past your PR. But I
Yes.
think if you don't take that chance, you don't know. You didn't completely blow up and say, I'm going to just do this mile 3, because that's probably when you would have blown up if you were to one of those 5, 10, whatever, 15-second faster of a time that mile. But I think I love that. If you don't take a chance, you don't get it. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, I want to hit under a 3 hour, and they'll hit 240 something. I'm like, geez, you must
Yeah.
have like really pushed it somewhere, because that's a
Yeah.
lot faster than just under a 3 hour. And so you
Yeah.
have to be aggressive, I think, sometimes,
Yes.
and really maybe that's at mile 15. You're like, today, man, I'm feeling really good. I'm going to
Yeah.
speed it up. I was talking to this one woman, what's her name? Like Mimi. Like, do you know who Mimi Smith is? She's one of the runners
I
here in
know of her.
Dallas.
I know
Okay.
she's crazy fast. Yep.
She runs 234s or 3s or something like that. And I remember one time her saying something like, I was at mile 15, 16, whatever. And then I started pushing really hard from there. And I was stunned. I mean, like, how do you do that? No, that's whenever your best miles are, or for somebody like her, is her best miles are 15 or 16, 3, 26. And that to me is astounding. But to me, that even running this last race I did, like I'm not a marathoner anymore, but like it made more sense. It's okay, she has a plan. She has her coach or whatever is talking to her this whole time. And so it sounds like exactly what happened to you. You're very strategic about, because your coach has helped you get through some of this. And say, this is what you need to do, mile 1 through 6 and 7 through whatever, and that kind of stuff. And if you have it, then hey, let go, or let's be conservative here and there. Look, I think that works. And I think that's smart. And I love that. There's something with that, with some of these faster runners like yourself, and even faster than you. There's execution throughout the race, right? And not to say you won't have a bad race at times, but if you follow the plan, first of all, you do the training. But if you do the training plan, which people like you will, then good things really happen when you strategically stay with that 26.2 plan, whatever that plan is. It's sort of interesting.
Yep.
It's intriguing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it just takes it is trial and error a little bit too. And it just takes more racing.
Yeah.
I don't love to race that often. I know some people that do half marathons like all the time, but I've got the blow up experience. Houston was a very conservative race, but it was one that I left thinking like maybe there was a little more that I could have done. Boston was fun, but I definitely didn't like really race that once. If like Dallas half, I remember was a big PR, but it was, I was definitely like getting blurry vision at the end of that race too. So feel like I had experienced a few key, I'm going to say experiences again, but I feel like I had gotten to have like different things happen on every end of the spectrum that I felt pretty confident making a decision in the race. And same thing happened in workouts, right? Like we simulate that a lot in the workouts themselves. And it's funny venturing into the coaching space now, because some of it is very much the science, right, of building faster runners. And some of it is being sneaky about helping them through the art of it, right? And learning how someone operates and writing a workout, knowing like what will make them feel like successful, or challenging something so that they experience that before a race. I think that's like super fun. And sometimes I'm like, Ruth, what did you do here? I get done with the workout and I'm like, what were you trying to sneak in there? I know that I'm a runner that I like to hit my pacer faster in a workout. And so Ruth, I know she does this. She writes them a little bit slower because she wants me to run a specific pace. And anyways, but I think to be able to make the choices in a race, I think you just takes it going super wrong and going really well to know like how your body feels and to be confident in the choice. And sometimes it's wrong.
What do you think about, so one of the things that I used to do is half marathons in the summer, and it's just too hot to do half marathons here in Dallas in the summer to me. And so I quit doing that the last couple of years. And this year I ran a lot of 5Ks to kind of keep that speed. And I did a lot of slow mileage throughout this year, but I did a lot more. So I was running 35 to 40 miles a week on a consistent basis for the last probably 7 months. But then I kind of started doing a lot more 5Ks throughout the summer to get some of that speed. I went to the track some and did some of the speed work there, but see, I have been running for a long time. So I know my body, because if I do too much speed, my Achilles start to hurt. I'm older. I'm not a 25-year-old runner anymore, or 40, even 40-year-old anymore. So I have to kind of be careful. And I think for me, that turned out really well. And so I like race day kind of experience to get used to that. But sometimes too much racing. If I'm racing a half marathon, I don't need to do a bunch of half marathons right before my half marathon. I don't know what your thinking is around that. I know you said you don't like to do a lot of races and stuff, but I recommend not necessarily a lot of races, doing some races before, so race day experience. Because a lot of times you go out too fast, or you don't know, because you get with the hype. You get with Boston, and you get the hype, or you go to New York, CIM. People are just starting off fast, and so if you don't have that experience, sometimes you just don't think about it. You're just going out, and all of a sudden you're running 30 seconds too fast for your first 2 miles, and so that could hurt you. I don't know if you have any thoughts around that, but that was my kind of experience.
No, I think it's great to do it. I just personally don't love to race all the time, but I know we're encouraging a lot of the Not Your Average Run Club, like the training program folks, to do the Oktoberfest 10K next weekend, which is the one I'm doing as well. And yeah, I think same thing. I don't like racing a half in the heat. Sue me. I don't enjoy it. I don't really want to be miserable. It might make me better. Sure. I don't really want to do it though. So one day I'll do another one. But yeah, I think it is absolutely good for you. I've done a few 5Ks as well recently, but yeah, I think it's good for people to experience that. I tell people, if you haven't blown up yet, maybe you go try blowing up at a 5K or 10K.
Yep.
It's not, just so you know how much it's going to suck, and then don't do that on race days.
5K are the worst.
Yeah.
I think that we talked about that earlier. It feels like a sprint. Is there anything that we didn't talk about, like Chris, we just didn't really cover this enough, or whatever, that you just wish we would have got out?
I guess I'll talk about Not Your Average Run Club for a second. I've gotten pretty integrated with them as well. And I think this around the summertime, especially when I had gotten involved with the CIM Ambassador program, I had just come out of a half marathon training block, which I didn't end up racing because it was the Carmel, Indiana one. And I don't know if you heard, but it got stormed out. So I flew there and had to fly home.
Nice.
But not ideal. That was me trying to avoid a Texas heat half marathon. And that's what happened. But anyways, I took a little bit of a break and told myself, okay, Kendall, you're gonna go build community. I started showing up to the different run clubs. I showed up to some Pegasus runs, Not Your Average Run Club. And now I feel like I never run alone, which is awesome. I feel like I run with so many different groups. Today I ran with a friend that invited me out to this guy host this Sunday social run on a trail. It's been super fun community, but Not Your Average Run Club does Tuesday night track workouts. So it was hard for me to join during a training block because I'm always doing my own workouts on Tuesday mornings. But that crew has grown so much, and they are doing a whole lot. Braxton, who started it, dreamed up this half marathon training program. And so that's how I got involved with them. I was going out to the run club. He learned that I did coaching. He asked if I'd help lead it. So we have 34 runners that are training, for a lot of them for their first half, a couple for their first full, which was really hard to write the group training programs because I feel like I know too much and I just want to know all the ins and outs. Coaching is 90% learning someone's life, 10% coaching and programming. It's majority learning about the person and what's going on in their life and trying to help fit running into their schedule in a healthy, sustainable way. It's hard to do that in a group program. So we have 34 runners, which is awesome. But yeah, so I think the group has grown a whole lot, and their whole thing is they want to educate around the other things that kind of come with running, like strength training and nutrition and stuff. They have a lot of vendors that come out and all of that. But this group program is supposed to be an opportunity to experience an intentional training program, but to run with other people and to learn a lot. So it's been a fun fun experience. And I'm grateful for Braxton bringing me along. But yeah, I guess that's full circle at how I started talking. So I just wanted to shout out the Run Club. They're a fun group.
I think that's awesome. It sounds like they do some really cool things. But one of the things that Dallas Running Club, yeah, I'm sure you've heard of them. It's a paid program and everything else. They do it by paces. So they have a half marathon group, full marathon group, and they even have 5K, 10K, or whatever. And so they'll break it down from a 130, 135, 140. So they'll have very similar running programs for them. But they're like, this is what the paces are, and this is what everything else is. As that group gets bigger, I'm sure you'll have to do something somewhat similar to say, because not everybody's going to run the same speed. That's the opportunity, and it's a lot of work.
We have it broken out based on more like mileage entry point, and we've tried to buddy system them up for paces. Anyways, we haven't broken up by mileage and haven't buddied up. But yeah, it's been a learning I think for all of us. But everyone seems to be having a good time. And we just have a lot of PRs every weekend, running longest long run. Just like cool to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's really cool that you get to be a part of that. Kendall, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on, telling your story, and telling us about your coaching and lots of really cool stuff. So I really appreciate that. And thanks everyone for another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Don't forget to rate and review us, and make sure you sign up for our newsletter at dfwrunningtalk.substack.com. Kendall, thanks again.
Thank you.